And welcome to day 39 of the Atlantic Hurricane Season, day number 57 in the Eastern Pacific, and we currently have 3 storms out there in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment. Tropical Storm Erick, which is still going very close to the Baja California Peninsula, making its closest approach at the moment. Tropical Storm Chantal, which is going to move through the Lesser Antilles over the next day or two, and then onto the Greater Antilles after that. And Typhoon Soulik as well, which has rapidly intensified, you could say, I suppose. Quick intensification nonetheless. And is expected to move towards the west-northwest as quite a fearsome cyclone over the next few days. More on that in just a moment. Here's the Pacific Ocean view. You can see both at Soulik and Erick, both storms there, nothing in between at the moment, no systems that are likely to develop, just them 2 storms as they are. In the Atlantic Ocean we have Tropical Storm Chantal, there it is at the bottom in the central Atlantic. There is a area of interest near the Bahamas, which was just declassified by the National Hurricane Center. It was at near 0% as it was, and another wave behind Chantal as well, which could have a small chance of development. In the Indian Ocean, 98S, Invest 98S, is still going, though there is a very low chance of development on that one. Obviously, in the southern hemisphere it's winter over there now, so it isn't likely to form in the next few days, or indeed at all, or even persist. Looking at the sea surface temperatures, then you can see still fairly warm waters off the Mexican coastline, though not where Erick is, next to the Baja California Peninsula. Water's dropping off a cliff there in that region. Where Chantal is headed, water's definitely warming up, 28 degrees or more, certainly enough for tropical cyclone development. And where Soulik is heading as well, waters of 30 degrees, perhaps for where the storm is headed over the next few days, so certainly good enough water temperatures for that one as well. So here's Tropical Storm Chantal, and currently with winds of 50 miles per hour, a pressure of 10 millibars, positions currently 11.8 degrees north, 55 degrees west, expected to move generally west-northwestward over the next 48 to 72 hours, moving through the Lesser Antilles, then onto the Greater Antilles, Hispaniola Island, and then onto Cuba and the Bahamas, as it's expected to weaken over the Bahamas in around 4 or 5 days time. Tropical storm warnings in effect for Barbados, Dominica, St. Lucia, Martinique, Guadeloupe and Puerto Rico. All those locations under tropical storm warnings should expect tropical storm conditions, and tropical storm watches in effect for St. Vincent, the US Virgin Islands, Vizcayas, Culebra, part of the Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, from Cabo Engano to the Haitian border. Tropical Storm Erick currently moving towards the northwest at the moment, wind speeds of 45 miles per hour, holding on at the moment with a pressure of 1001 millibars, current positions 22.9 degrees north, 111.1 degrees west conveniently, and the storm is expected to curve slowly towards the west as it begins to weaken, or continues to weaken, into a tropical depression and then a remnant low in the next 2 days or so. Not much more to be said about that one really, and the tropical storm warnings remain in effect from Santa Fe to La Paz on the Baja California Peninsula, the southern section of the peninsula. Tropical storm conditions are still likely, or indeed occurring, considering how close the storm is to land at this point. And here's Typhoon Soulik as well, winds of 75 miles per hour, pressure of 974 millibars, positions 19.4 degrees north, 141.5 degrees east, expected to move towards the west-northwest and intensify to at least a category 3 typhoon, a major hurricane equivalent on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale, and then expected to affect the Japanese Ryukyu Islands, and then the northern tip of Taiwan and China as well, possibly making a landfall as a major storm there. Looking at the satellite imagery then, you can see Chantal slowly getting its act together, so it seems. There's a pocket of dry air in between the storm and the Caribbean, which is probably impeding its development ever so slightly. But it's not doing too bad at the moment, especially for a storm that was not expected to develop, at least initially, and that's likely to continue towards the west-northwest, possibly intensifying as well. Here's Erick, still holding on at the moment, moving towards the northwest, but it isn't expected to last very long at this stage, only around 12 to 24 hours before it weakens even more and becomes tropical depression. Partially exposed centre of circulation as well, you can see on the satellite imagery right there. And the Western Pacific, you can see the Typhoon Soulik, quite hard to miss there, developing its eye feature towards those last few images as well, moving generally towards the west, maybe a little bit of northern element, now clear of the Northern Mariana Islands and over open ocean for the time being, but that isn't likely to be the case for that long, as it's going to approach land very soon. Looking at the tropical models then, the computer models, the CMC, first of all, if I can talk, the CMC predicts 2 systems, or even maybe even 3 actually. One Storm Chantal moving into Florida past the Bahamas, and another storm forming in the Gulf of Mexico, and possibly a tropical wave forming in the Atlantic as well. The ECMWF doesn't really pick on much except for perhaps a system in the Eastern Pacific at the end of that one, if I'm not mistaken, but also a little bit of a tropical wave perhaps developing a little bit towards the end of that run there. The GFS model has Chantal pretty much following the National Hurricane Center's track, but moving into Florida after stalling over the Bahamas at the end of that, and quite a notable system forming behind it as well in the central Atlantic, which is rather interesting to see. The NavGen model actually takes Chantal through Cuba pretty much to the south actually, over the Cayman Islands and then into the Gulf of Mexico, which would be quite an interesting scenario if that played out. The GFDL model takes Chantal through the Lesser Antilles as a tropical storm and then into the Dominican Republic and then up to the Bahamas, as re-intensifying into a tropical storm near the Bahamas as well, possibly stalling and turning towards the west. The HWRF keeps the system weak, though it just predicts 2 systems out in the Atlantic after that, towards the end of that run there you saw. The Chantal model runs then, you can see the static runs for those who are fans of static rather than animation. You can see quite clearly, quite clear consensus on a possible Barbados landfall and then moving through the Lesser Antilles, but it is a bit more varied towards the end of that run there. The Western Pacific models then are fairly self-explanatory really. The CMC model has quite a deep system moving through, perhaps making landfall in Taiwan as well. The GFS takes it more north, possibly not even making landfall in China, and then curving into the Korean peninsula towards the end of that run there, possibly as a typhoon landfall even at that point. Looking at the overall predicted season scores then for July the 9th, there's quite a bit of change going on here. The top 3, Ken remains in first place with 79, Typhoon Belper with 71, and William in third place with 71 points also. A lot of people who predicted low or nil numbers obviously falling down the table now, considering that lots of storms are forming at this stage. You can submit your own storm totals at the website force13.com/interactive. Just click the 2013 Predict a Season button and you should find it fairly easily to submit the totals that you see fit, and I'll put it up on the leaderboard as soon as I feel like it basically. So what happened on this day then on July the 9th? 1978 Tropical Storm Fico formed in the Eastern Pacific. I think that one's pictured, it's either to the, I don't know which one it is actually. 1979 Tropical Storm Bob formed in the Gulf of Mexico. In 1981 Tropical Storm Calvin dissipated in the Eastern Pacific, and in 1984 Hurricane Elida dissipated in the Eastern Pacific on this day. 1979 you can see Bob there forming in the western part of the Gulf of Mexico there, obviously becoming a Category 1 hurricane eventually. Also on this day, 1989 Tropical Storm Barry formed in the Central Atlantic, pictured there. 1992 Tropical Storm Estelle formed in the Eastern Pacific. In 1999 Beatrice also formed in the Eastern Pacific, and in 2000 Typhoon Kai Tak made landfall in Taiwan as a Category 1 storm, resulting in 188 fatalities. That one's pictured on its approach to Taiwan there. In 2002, Tropical Storm Christina formed in the Eastern Pacific. In 2005, Hurricane Dennis began to rapidly intensify in the Gulf of Mexico on its way to the Gulf Coast. You can see that one pictured as well. 2006, Tropical Storm Billis formed in the Western Pacific, and in 2007, Tropical Storm Manyi formed in the Western Pacific. There were 1 or 2 which I had to omit to fit on this slide, but that will be on the website. Just go to the homepage. The On This Day feature is on the homepage, and you can track any storm that forms at the website as well, including the ones that are currently active. Tropical storms. Force13.com/storm tracking.html is the main page for the storm tracking, and then you're presented with the world overview and the tables which show you which storms are active and what warnings are currently in effect at a glance. And then you can go more in depth basin by basin to see which storms are going where, the tracking maps, and of course any warnings that are in effect in more detail, and more information about the storm generally as well. And in between videos, that's quite an effective tool because the website is updated more often than I do these videos, so it's a good idea to go and check out the website in the middle of the day, for instance, when there are no videos coming out. And you can visit the social pages as well, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. We're on all 3 of those. Just search Force 13, you should find us fairly easily enough, and don't forget to show your support by engaging in whatever means you see fit, by commenting, subscribing, favouriting, following, liking, and whatever else I may have missed out. There usually is one, but there you have it. and I appreciate anything that you do send in. And you can also send in some comments on the YouTube page as well, the YouTube video. And if you have any questions, by the comments or the private message feature, I'll get back to them as soon as I can if it is relevant to the storm updates. The next bulletin will be coming up, bulletin number 39. That will be on Wednesday morning, July the 10th at around midnight UTC, with possible storm updates during the day on both Chantal and Soulik. But that's it for now.